Hey, are you an Android user? I hope you haven't been feeling too smug about all the woe that the Apple iOS App Store has been having with that Xcode Ghost malarkey. Because you know what? You've got a malware problem too. And it's much bigger than Apple's. Hey there, I've got a quick quiz question to test your brain and intelligence. Which do you think has got the biggest malware problem? Is it iOS, the iPhone and iPad, or is it Android? Care to hazard a guess? The answer, of course, is Android. The Android operating system has an enormous amount of malware for it. The bad guys are very, very busy writing hundreds of thousands of new instances of malware to infect them. And some of the Android malware actually manages to make its way into the official Google Play Store. Now, if you've been feeling really smug lately as an Android user because Apple has had a bit of a trouble with malware getting its way into the App Store in the form of Xcode Ghost and a number of apps being infected, then I think it's maybe time to stop feeling like that, because the researchers at Checkpoint have just discovered that there's been more malware being distributed via the official Android Google Play Store, and it's been downloaded by maybe as many as 1 million people. Hopefully it's less, but maybe as many as 1 million. The app in question is called Brain Test, and it claims to test your IQ. Well, there's one thing which it is going to test, which is your security, because what it actually does is it installs on your Android device a rootkit, and the rootkit works at a very low level and allows the bad guys to install further malicious code onto your Android device should they wish to. And there's all kinds of other things they can do as well. They could use this foothold which they have onto your Android device to display adverts, mess around with your settings, or install apps onto your home screen should they so wish. Now, the bogus Brain Test Android app was actually uploaded to the official Google Play Store on 2 separate occasions, each time being downloaded by up to 500,000 people. And Google, even though it does have some tests in place in the form of a process called Bouncer to weed out malicious code being uploaded to it, they failed to prevent it. So no cigar on this occasion, Google. And what's happened was the bad guys had worked out a way of weaving their way past Bouncer's protection. You can read more about that on Checkpoint's blog if you want to find out how they did it, and hopefully Google is going to get wise to this and prevent some of those methods from working again in the future. But the question is this: what are you going to do with your Android device to make sure that it stays better protected in the future? So I'm going to give you some tips. First of all, please try to keep your Android operating system up to date. Now that's really difficult, and you may have to spill some chicken entrails in order to allow it to happen and have the planets in the right place in the constellations, because it's not easy always to get an Android operating system update. No, you're rather reliant not just on Google issuing one, but also your phone manufacturer being up for it, and of course your cell provider as well. It rather depends on what Android device you have. So if you have, for instance, a Google Nexus, coming from the mothership itself of Google, the great chocolate factory in the sky, then yes, you're more likely to get an Android operating system update. If, however, you're using one of the other vendors and manufacturers, it may be a little bit less likely that you're going to get it. But do pressure them, because it is outrageous that so many Android devices become obsolete and don't receive security updates properly. Secondly, what I want you to do is I want you to run an antivirus on your Android device. I know, you can't believe that you still have to run antivirus in this day and age, but I would strongly recommend running an antivirus on your Android device, because there's so much malware out there. And if you've got precious data on your phone, whether it be work communications, your emails, or whether it be photographs, you might as well try to prevent as much of that from being compromised as possible by running an antivirus. I think it makes good sense. The other thing which I'd recommend is be very careful about what apps you install onto your Android device. Obviously, you should go to the official App Store, so go to Google Play rather than third-party sites, because at least Google are trying to weed out some of the malicious stuff, even if they failed in the case of Brain Test. But also, look at the reviews which are there, and any comments which people have left, because that may also indicate to you whether there's something malicious there. The more times it's been downloaded, the more positive reviews it's got, although obviously there's ways of faking that kind of thing. Well, hopefully it will give you an extra level of confidence that what you're looking at is the genuine article and not something malicious. The other thing I'd recommend is really a final test. As you install an app onto your Android device, look at the permissions which it requests. If it's, for instance, a flashlight app, it doesn't need to know your GPS location. It doesn't need to have access to your phone calls or send SMS messages. So look at those permissions, and if they seem out of line with what the app is supposed to do, then simply say no. It's always possible that the bad guys will develop a piece of Android malware which manages to get past your operating system updates, gets past your latest version of the antivirus which you're running on your Android device, and it gets past your noodle, thinking and considering whether this thing you're installing is likely to be kosher or not. That's always going to be possible, but at least you've reduced the risk. The Android Brain Test app is just the latest in a long, long line of malware coming out for the operating system, and believe me, there will be much, much more Android malware to come as well. It's not a problem which is just going to shrink away. But if you take the right precautions, you can reduce the risk to you. And who knows, maybe Google will get a little bit better about securing its app store as well. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to like it and check out some of the other videos I've made as well. And if you really want me to make more vids, then subscribe to my channel. Alright? So, have you subscribed yet? Come on, subscribe.